nation's automotive magazine. With your host, John Davis.
Hello and welcome again to Motor Week 89. We're glad to have you with us. Enzo Ferrari, father of Italy's most celebrated sports cars, died on August 14th, 1988. He was 90. But his legacy lives on. Just mentioning the name Ferrari makes the palms sweat and the pulse race. Our entire show this time is dedicated to the feeling that is Ferrari and to the man responsible for it. In the next half hour, we're going to search for the source of that feeling, and the only natural place to begin our quest is in Italy.
Ah, Italia. The sights, the sounds, the cars, the red car. Italy is the land of passion, and nowhere is that passion more evident than in the cars of Ferrari. The north of Italy is where many a sports car fan will tell you lies heaven. Maranello is the home of Il Cavallino, the prancing horse. This quiet town of 20,000, far from the urban madness of Rome or Milan, is the breeding ground for Italy's most famous thoroughbreds. At first glance, it is a factory like any other, except for that special name emblazoned on the walls. Contrary to legend, not everything here is done by hand. American computers drive sophisticated Italian machine tools for engine milling. From grinding to drilling, engine components move on a state-of-the-art conveyance system. And microprocessors control rust protection chemicals that are too dangerous to be applied by man. But automation makes Ferraris better cars, not better Ferraris.
Any Ferrari car, I think that you can find the spirit of the factory that is a sporting spirit.
What is this spirit? How does it set this car factory apart from others? Look behind the modern trappings and you'll begin to see. Nowhere in all the high-volume, mega-profit factories of Japan will you find men doing this. Ferrari cast engine blocks in the same way that it did 40 years ago. Even the alloys are mixed in small batches on the foundry floor. The composition of a Ferrari engine block is too important to be left to outsiders or computers. Handwork is everywhere, and it's part of what makes a Ferrari a Ferrari.
If you want, every part, every piece, every element of the interior of the car can be hand-fitted, all in the finest Connolly leather, in virtually any color.
In the auto industry, this level of handwork indicates either poverty or pride. Poverty has not been a problem since corporate giant Fiat bought half of Ferrari in 1969. While money has only been plentiful for about half the company's life, pride has always been in abundance. After all, would a machine care that there is the tiniest imperfection in a door panel and have the skill to tap it out without disturbing 9 coats of carefully applied paint? We think not. Pride is the key to the Ferrari magic. Pride born out of one of the most illustrious histories in the automotive world. That history is well illustrated by the lobby of the Maranello factory. Here reside the cars that Ferrari considers major stepping stones in the marque's legend. There is the 12-cylinder 125C, the first true Ferrari, the first to wear the prancing horse. It was also the first true Ferrari to race, making its competition debut on May 11, 1947. From then on, the name Ferrari became synonymous with motorsports. Few who saw the 125C's debut realized the greatness that was to follow. Next to the 125C sits one of the first Ferrari Formula 2 race cars, designated the 166 F2. This is the type of car that most exemplifies the spirit of Ferrari. Throughout his life, Enzo Ferrari made no secret of the fact that his road cars were Corseolo, racing derived. He built them solely to pay for the Ferrari racing program. Racing was Ferrari's all-consuming passion, and it is a tribute to Ferrari the man that he could recognize his own limitations. Others drove the precious cars that he could well have driven himself. While road cars may not have been Ferrari's #1 priority, they did not lack for his inspiration. This is driven home by the final car in the Maranello lobby, the F40. The final car to receive Mr. Ferrari's approval, built by his engineers as a tribute to mark his 90th birthday and the company's 40th anniversary. The F40 is pure Ferrari, as modern as the space shuttle, yet rigidly traditional, much like Enzo Ferrari himself. It is the end of an era, but hardly the last of its line. As the workers of Ferrari assemble the ultra-modern F40, they continue the tradition. Older teaches younger, as it was done 40 years ago, or 400. Only now the materials are Kevlar and carbon fiber, where once there was only steel. Yet the meticulous handwork and attention to detail remain. When the workday ends, Ferrari workers may leave the factory, but they do not leave Ferrari at the factory gate. Across the street from the Maranello plant stands the Ristorante Il Cavallino. This four-star establishment was a favorite dining spot for Enzo Ferrari. He even had his own dining room. The trophies of Ferrari wins in the famed Mille Miglia rally are kept at Il Cavallino. The restaurant has become a place of pilgrimage for the automotive community, each group contributing its logo to a special door as a memento of its visit. This devotion is not restricted to Maranello. A short drive away in Modena is another restaurant that doubles as a shrine. On the street where Enzo Ferrari lived is the Trattoria Lauro. Though not as fancy as Il Cavallino, its decor shows just as much pride in Italy's most famous automobiles. The walls are covered with pictures of all the great Ferrari drivers and the machines that carry them to victory. Much space is also devoted to the great road cars that are the envy of drivers the world over. No matter where you look, Ferrari is on everything. Everything. Not surprising that Mr. Ferrari ranks close to the Pope in the hearts of the Italian people. To the people on the factory floor at Maranello, however, he is even more. For they are all part of a greater whole, of which Enzo Ferrari is still the most important aspect. They are the hands that shape Il Commendatore's dreams, as integral to the process of creating a Ferrari as the first flash of inspiration in a great man's mind. From those who own and love these rare cars, even for Ferraristi, the cars demand special qualities.
More than any other things, you must be fond, you must be in love with the speed, with the success, with the competition, with the sporting field that Ferrari so well has represented in the last 40 years of the story of the automobile.
And as we have found out, it takes a rarer and even more special person to build a Ferrari.
In our search so far, we found that part of what makes a Ferrari is the way it's built and the people who build it. This craftsmanship and pride can be traced back to the spirit of the Italian Renaissance. You could say the Renaissance lives on in Ferrari cars. Mr. Ferrari's passion for racing also lives on, as well as the Italian national passion for speed. These things are Ferrari, and what better way to experience them than by driving the newest Ferrari, the last Ferrari to debut under Mr. Ferrari's direction, the F40.
Forget the Testarossa. Forget the GTO. Leave the 328s to the streets of Southern California. This is the Ferrari of the hour. This is the F40. To call it Ferrari's fastest production model is an injustice. This car makes Ferrari red that much redder. This car's pinup poster will decorate boys' bedrooms for years to come. This car produces sensations that our videotape can't begin to reproduce. This F40 is a race car for the street, a true Corsaiolo. The chassis is made of steel tubing and plastic. The body is Kevlar and carbon fiber, hardly what we'd call production car construction. And the F40's interior is not the sort of place where you'd want to be during a traffic jam. There's not a radio to be found, let alone a trip computer, or the soft, frilly trappings we've come to expect in Gran Turismo GT cars. The F40 is for one thing only, hard driving, be it on the street or on the track. And everything, including these carbon fiber seats, is up to that task. The typical Ferrari gated shifter is the only interior bright work. On the prototype we saw, there wasn't even a trim panel for the door, just a cable handle and enough carbon fiber for structural integrity. The dash has the simple job of holding the instruments where the driver can see them. Immediately ahead, the driver is burdened by as few instruments as possible. Secondary gauges are out of direct view, as are the vents for the less than state-of-the-art ventilation system. Yet nothing is here that shouldn't be. Even the clutch, brake, and accelerator pedals are finely machined works of weight savings. And in that spirit, this lightweight plastic racing window is optional. This F40 is a European version. The 180 or so examples that make it to the States will be slightly different in detail. There may be a few more comforts, but not many. That would spoil the car. For those who drive the minimalist F40 for a long distance on the highway, there's special F40 luggage that's designed to fit into few spots where there's unused space. The F40 is most at home on the racetrack, or at least an open, very open road. And what better place to try it than Ferrari's own Fiorano test track? This is where the new Super Ferrari surprised us most. As in most race-bred cars, the controls are heavy to the touch. You'll need a good, strong left leg for pushing the clutch pedal. Aside from that, the F40 has few other vices. It can be driven close to the edge of its capabilities without superhuman capabilities from its driver. But going fast around corners isn't the only thing the F40 does well. Power comes from a 3-liter V8. It's a further development of the engine used in Ferrari's GTO. It has all the things you'd expect in today's high-performance engines: 4 valves per cylinder, 4 cams, and twin turbos with intercoolers. Output is 471 horsepower. Enough said. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, that's about 62 miles per hour, takes a short 4.1 seconds. Getting to the end of 1 kilometer, that's just over 6/10 of a mile, takes 20.9 seconds. And by then, the F40 is running at 166 miles per hour. Top speed, according to the factory, is 201 miles per hour. As for stopping, we didn't have the opportunity for our usual brake test. But rest assured, the F40s is pretty adept at using friction to turn speed into harmless heat. For that, there are brake rotors as large as some cars' wheels, 13 inches. One behind each of the F40's 17-inch wheels. And there's no power assist. The F40 doesn't need it. Getting the brakes to work doesn't take nearly as much leg muscle as the clutch pedal. Good thing. The brakes in this car work so well, stops at high speed could be delayed for much longer than we'd thought. After the Fiorano drive, Ferrari let us take the F40 out to see how it looked among the Apennine Mountains above Maranello. It looked, well, at home. The F40 is just hospitable enough to be a road-going car, much to the surprise of some Maranello cyclists. The F40 on the street is an experience not many will forget. If you want an F40 for your own country motoring, the privilege will cost you about $260,000. And unlike the super exotics from some other makers, this one will be sold in the U.S. Problem is, every one has been spoken for. In fact, Ferrari of North America has had more orders than the factory can begin to fill. In the end, the F40 is something we will only drive in our dreams. But what sweet dreams they will be.